Two convicted criminals addicted to drugs with two very different paths in life.
I come out of jail with £40 because that's what you get. Truthfully, I rang my dealer. So he turned up, he gave me my 6 white and it just starts again and again and again and again and again.
When I got out on the 1st of April, I had a script in my hand for the Saturday and the Sunday and an appointment already made on a Monday.
One released into a system prepared to support and provide treatment. The other left in a vulnerable, life-threatening situation.
When I was a little kid and they asked you in school what you want to be, believe me, I did not say a crackhead. I did not say a drug addict, a substance user.
The difference isn't necessarily their crime or sentence, but simply where they live.
It's absolutely possible to copy and paste what we have here, and the engagement into the community treatment can be replicated in any area across the country, and we know it makes a difference.
And with a lack of resources and partnership in most of the country, the consequences can be fatal.
That's what killed Brandon, not having that support.
Oh, thank you, Rob.
When he was released from prison, Joe had no other choice than to return here, the streets of Manchester. With limited or no support available for his drug addiction, he was back taking lethal substances.
I got out on the 3rd of March this year and I got promised all these options would be available when I got out. But then when it actually came to the limelight, there was only one choice, and you know what that was? Coming back to this city centre, homeless, doing drugs. Manchester city centre's like a breeding ground for it, yeah? There's no escaping it. Because you'll say to yourself one morning, oh yeah, I want to get off drugs, but then you'll see somebody later who's selling drugs, taking drugs, offers you drugs. It's just a circle and it never ends.
Just 2 hours down the road in the West Midlands, and that vicious drug cycle for Elton is long gone. His path out of prison was the complete opposite.
I've got my prescription, which the prisons give me for the weekend until my appointment. I've always self-destructed when bad things have happened in my personal life. I've always ended up back on drugs, using that as a crutch basically to get through. But this time I've literally put walls around me of support so that any problem, any issue I've got, they're there straight away.
Elton fell into a system that provides stability, from help with housing to daily doses of methadone, which keeps him off lethal substances.
Thanks a lot. See you tomorrow.
And a weekly meeting with his caseworker
Got an appointment, it's okay.
keeps him on track.
Without I'd be rattling basically. I'd be back using drugs straight away, offending straight away. I'd have no other choice. Have a shower at breakfast by 9, college for 10.
The problem is, in England, there aren't many cases like Elton. He's a part of a small and lucky group of people. However, like Joe, there are thousands of prison leavers across the country that need the support and treatment, but it's just not an option. A massive proportion of England's prisoners are known to have drug problems. Data shared with Sky News suggests 25,000 prisoners are leaving jail with drug issues, and across England, only 38% of them are receiving support for it. That means around 2/3 of England's prisoners are leaving jail and could be going straight back into a dangerous life of drugs. If we look at Manchester, the number of prisoners receiving support here is lower than the national average, at just 23.8%. It's amongst the worst in the country. But results in Sandwell are completely different. 49% of prison leavers got vital help in 2021, but latest data shared with us takes that number to 62%, one of the best performing areas in the country.
You know, if I could get that help, do you really think I'd be sat here in front of the tent? Do you really think I'd be wasting my time, trying to explain how much of a the system is? Because if the system wasn't a I wouldn't be talking this right this second.
For some, what happens in the hours after leaving prison can be the difference between life and death.
Well, from the minute that he came out of these gates, they picked him up, they escorted him to probation, to see his probation officer. They waited for him and they took him to his new accommodation in Stanley Street, and that was it.
Brandon was just 23 years old when he was released from prison in Manchester. That same night, he died from drug misuse.
Well, it was 10 to 1, and the phone went, the house phone went, and it was his mum telling me that Brandon was dead. And I just was screaming. I just couldn't believe what my ears was hearing.
His family say that hours after leaving prison, Brandon realised his shelter was unsupervised, and so he left to find drugs. The following morning, he was lying in a corridor, dying of a cocaine overdose.
No words could express how much I miss him.
He wasn't discovered until hours later.
There was no help for him, you know. There was nobody even to phone an ambulance. He lay there for hours. Who knows if he'd have had an ambulance, who knows, he could have survived. But here we are now. If you said to me you needed help, I couldn't say, oh, there's a centre, there's a place you can go. There is nowhere. You know, you've either got to do it yourself or you're left to end up like this.
Death by drug misuse rates across England have increased year on year, from 3.9 in 2015 to 5 deaths per 100,000 people in 2020. Again, Manchester's numbers are worse than the national average, with 9 in every 100,000 people dying from drug misuse. And again, Sandwell are performing considerably better. 2.2 deaths per 100,000 are caused by drug misuse. That's less than half the national average. So the question is, how is a place like Sandwell, despite its everyday challenges, offering people here a lifeline?
So the Cranston team are just there on the right. Drug testing happens across the corridor just there. And then, as you can see, this is the main bit. This is where you're brought when you're first arrested in West Midlands Police.
How crucial is it being so nearby?
It's unique because this is our first point of contact for people who use drugs. This is where we can get to them.
Meg heads up an organisation that is ingrained in Sandwell's response to drugs. Cranston works with the council, the NHS and West Midlands Police to rehabilitate drug users from the moment they're arrested.
We feel it's really important to have a whole system approach, right from pre-arrest, where we have a diversion scheme for people found in possession of drugs, to the police custody where we are today, and our service exists across the West Midlands Police, right through to our community service in Sandwell, which picks people up from coming out of prison. So someone will come in and be checked into the desk here, and our team will either do voluntary sweeps of cells.
You're right, Dan. I'm Dave. I'm a drug and alcohol worker. Have you got any addiction issues?
Or actually, if someone has come in through a serious acquisitive crime, something like burglary or shoplifting, then they may be asked to do a drug test.
You know, you're sitting in the police cell, you've got nobody, no contact, no nothing, and then they're there willing to help you straight away.
This super block of cells functions in a completely unique way to the rest of the country. No other local authority has a system in place to intercept offenders on arrest and provide drug treatment right through to when they leave prison. So why isn't this formula, which we know is effective, happening across the country?
It's absolutely possible to copy and paste what we have here, and the engagement into the community treatment can be replicated in any area across the country. It would reduce drug-related deaths, it would get more people into treatment, it would save money to society. So we would really want to look at and ask government to look at the model that we've got here and empower the local authorities to come together, to work together, to build the same sort of model across the country.
But the government told us different areas have different challenges, and so they can't endorse a one-size-fits-all approach. Success isn't necessarily down to money, but how different authorities work together to deliver an effective service, all too evident at Cranston's headquarters.
Okay, no worries. That's okay. Bye. Bye.
Sandwell Council, the NHS in Sandwell has always had a big focus on drug addiction, alcohol-related harm, so that's important. This work is resource intensive and we could always do with more funding, and it's a cost-effective spend. If we can help someone back off drugs, that reduces costs for the whole of society, it reduces crime. It would be shooting ourselves in the foot as a society to not support this group of people out of those problems and back into maybe a more functioning role in society.
The drug and alcohol workers here aren't just meeting people at police stations or at the prison gates. Simon takes life-saving supplies to people on the streets. It's face-to-face engagement which proves vital.
We need to get out there and meet people where they're at. Some people will be facing so many barriers that just getting to our service, getting to the office in the first place, may be several steps away. We're getting people using heroin down here, but also people are using this as a space to come and smoke weed. Pretty much all of this litter here is drug related, so you've got packets for syringes, packets for needles, needle casings, cookers.
But this level of engagement in a city like Manchester is limited. The partnership work is lacking, and so the drug problem here is ever present.
It's often in the stairwells of these big multi-storey car parks where we know people are taking drugs, from heroin to crack to spice, and that there is the reality if there are no or limited options for drug addicts to seek treatment when they're released from prison. And here in Manchester, where the engagement levels are so low, charities are trying to help, but with lack of resources and partnership, the knock-on effects to wider society are huge.
They come out of jail and they come to us and say, oh, I've just got out of jail, I need clothing, I need this, that and the other. Some of them do get accommodation, but when they go into the accommodation there's no support whatsoever. So they might as well just be back out on the streets and be straight back to the crack and the spice straight away.
Do you want the tea bag, take it out?
No.
Despite having one of the worst records in the country, Manchester City Council told us they're pleased with the number of people engaging with treatment upon leaving prison, but added, making sure there is a clear and supportive pathway is a key part of the work the council does to help people recover from substance misuse. We know there is more that can be done to support what is a very vulnerable cohort. This is a long-standing issue which is only now getting the attention it needs from government. They've declared a new £120 million fund to crack down on addiction by rolling out 18 abstinence-led drug wings in prisons to get offenders clean, and recruiting 50 health and justice coordinators across the country to improve links between prisons and community treatment services. But their biggest commitment, ensuring every offender will have access to treatment they need and a plan to help them turn their backs on crime, are empty words to people like Joe until he sees that change.
I'd drop every single drug in the world if I could get proper help. I want to be a role model for my little brother and sister, but while I'm on drugs I can't do that. And because I know in my head I can't do that, and the addiction's got me, I take more and more and more.
With Cranston this time, it's been more like a circuit breaker, and instead of self-destructing, of using the bad things that have happened to turn them into positives and build myself differently this time. Couldn't thank them enough. Without them, I'd no doubt be still on drugs and still offending, and if not, in prison or dead.